Hey, everybody, welcome to Shift. Today's episode is with Shane Warner of the Iron Will podcast. Shane Warner has overcome drug addiction, he's overcome a traumatic brain injury, and he now hosts his own podcast called Iron Will, which, if you haven't checked it out, go onto Spotify, go into Apple Podcasts, and check it out. He shares a lot of stories of overcoming. And when we talk about radical accountability, we talk about vulnerability, and we talk about having to overcome really hard things in life. Like, think about going into a situation before Christmas to help a friend and waking up in January in the hospital. That's the kind of stuff that Shane has had to overcome. This is his story, and I hope you enjoy it.
I'm really excited to get this opportunity because I feel like I've been on a lot of podcasts before. I've spoken a few podcasts before. Really dare to share my whole story. There's way more than just the brain injury. Like, I went to jail in 2007. I was in a Walmart parking lot, and an undercover police officer was watching my two friends make a drug deal. And so I was on the phone, and I was on the phone, and I heard this undercover officer yelling at my two friends. So I went over there because I didn't know who he was or anything like that. So I just basically turned myself in to the police because of my decision to go over and see what was going on. But so they arrested all three of us, and I spent Christmas in jail.
Wow.
Actually, that year. Yeah. So, and then, like, I was doing I classify myself as a drug addict or anything like that. I would smoke weed and do ecstasy and stuff like that. And it's what we actually got busted for, was ecstasy. But and anyway, so I was going down that path of like a partying kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so eventually I got married in 2008. I got married to a girl that I was partying with, and so she was into that lifestyle also. And the reason why we ended up getting married was her mom was moving to Arkansas, and so she really didn't have a way to stay in Utah, and so we just decided to get married. And so it wasn't like I didn't necessarily love this girl,
Yeah.
and I just got married just because. So we split up in December of 2008, and so we were living separated. I was actually moved back in with my parents, and so I was living with my parents and still like doing the drugs and stuff like that. And eventually they got sick of it, me always being high and always like screwing up basically. And so they kicked me out, and I moved in with this couple in Orem, Utah. And eventually my wife that I was split up with moved in there, and like I don't remember much of that like living situation. It was kind of just a blur to me because I overdosed in September of 2009. I overdosed on methadone. Just like that was what was available at the time. And so I was just kind of going in between. Like we would do like cocaine and like my big thing was just pain pills. And so I, but I overdosed on methadone. And that was a really big turning point for me. Like I woke up in the hospital, and I was in a coma for a little bit, and um, that was a really big turning point for me because I knew like that if I kept going down this path, I was gonna kill myself,
Yeah.
not meaning to, but that's what would have happened. Like, and so decided I was gonna join the army or the military. I actually started out wanting to join the Marines, but the Marines have strict guidelines,
Yeah.
and I had too many traffic tickets on my record, and so they wouldn't take me, and so I finally decided on the army, and so I start. I went to the recruiter in the spring of 2010, and so I like was signed up to go in July of that year, and the army came back and said the same thing that the Marines did, that I have too many traffic tickets and I wouldn't be able to join. But the recruiter told me to go talk to the National Guard and see if I can get in. And the recruiter told me that I didn't have to worry about what my job would be. I wanted to go infantry in the army, and so the recruiter told me that just sign up with any job and you'll be able to switch jobs, and that's not true. So yeah,
So what'd you end up
so
doing in the
be
guard?
careful what you're I was the engineer,
Okay.
and so I finally signed up on the dotted line in September 23rd, 2011, and I had been trying to get into the military since 2010. So I that was like one of the best things that anyone could do, that's struggling and like having problems with discipline and anything like that. um, Joining the military, going to basic training, and like going through that whole situation is like life changing.
Was that why
It
you chose to
will.
go in? Was just because you felt like you needed discipline, you needed someone to help keep you like focused and
I
on track?
felt, yes, and I felt like if I stayed living at home or living in Spanish Fork, Utah, I would just keep going down the same path. And I thought that was going to be the only chance for me to like turn my life around,
Yeah.
basically.
What do you think
And
got you
so,
started on that path? What do you think put you in a place where, was that just the community you were in? Did you have childhood trauma? Did you have stuff going on at home? Was it just the in thing to
Um,
do?
no, I always wanted to join the military ever since 9/11, and
Mm,
like that's the kind of the cliche with people around our age, is they wanted to join since 9/11, and just um, I thought that's gonna be my last chance, basically, to
mm.
be able to do something positive with my life.
Yeah,
And
but I'm
so,
curious, how did you end up in a situation where you were using drugs and partying all the time? And like, was that just, you just kind of fell into it? Was it just the crowd you were running with, or?
oh, okay. Um, so I played basketball up until junior year, and then I got cut from the basketball team, and I started hanging around with a whole different crowd. And so, um, like I before I would hang out with the athletes and stuff like that, and was into that whole thing. And then after I got cut from the basketball team, I just found new people to hang out with,
Yeah,
and they were just on the same path as I was. So
yeah, yeah. That's crazy. I'm always fascinated by what brings people into a space where they're trying to like numb pain or
mhm,
avoid like what's really happening. Because for me, like, so, you know, overcoming, alcoholism or that addiction and getting sober was really about having to like face my own demons and deal with my own stuff,
yeah,
right? It's like, I think a lot of people who have either addiction issues or issues who are there where they're using other things to numb that, it's almost like the opposite of accountability, right? Like, it's like, I don't want to deal,
yeah,
so what can I do to just distract
hmm,
as long as possible? And some distractions are way more harmful than others. Some people do it with food, some people do it with sex, some people do it with drugs
yeah.
and alcohol. Some are way more destructive, right? So obviously, so you go through that whole experience. You did you end up going into the guard then? Did you end up serving for a couple of years?
Yes. I went in or I went in October of 2011 into basic training, and I went through AIT, and then went home after that, and served up until my brain injury. Finally felt like I was like make it, I finally felt like I was doing something with my life, and it felt good.
Yeah.
Just to have that the national guard, and I was working as a plumber, and so I was on my feet and doing pretty good, the best I had ever done.
Yeah.
So, and then I met this girl, and I knew her from high school, and we ended up dating and moving in with each other. And then I um, found out that she was doing heroin.
Wow.
I found out because um, on my bathroom counter, there was a needle, and I found that, and um, so I was basically trying to help her through her getting over heroin and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and so I
And you've
think,
been sober
um,
by then. You were clean and you were doing good. And so
yeah,
you felt like you had a place where you could help her come through that.
yes, and like eventually she was going up to Salt Lake every day and getting drugs and or heroin, and um, so I was in the process of moving her stuff out because I felt like there was nothing more I could do for her.
Mm.
I thought that it was no longer up to me, and so I was kind of moving her stuff out, and on December 15th, 2012, she called me and said she owed these people money, um, in West Valley, Utah, and could I come up and help her out with the money she owes, give it to the people. Um, and so I went out there with her mom and her sister, and um, we called the police at first. She was couldn't do anything. Like, I guess they didn't have a warrant or anything like that, so they could just question the people, and like
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. And so eventually, like, we were up there for a couple hours, and eventually we just decided there was like no way to help her out. um, and so we decided to leave, and we were actually almost on the freeway, and she called one more time, and she said, give these people $400, they'll let me go with you home with you guys. And it just so happened that I cashed my Christmas bonus that day, and I had $1,000 extra in my wallet.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I just figured, I really care about this person, and if there's anything I can do to help her out, I'll do it. And so we went up. I went up to the door, um, to give this, um, people the money that she owed them, and this kid answered the door, and I was yelling at him, and like belligerent yelling, like, at the top of my lungs, and really, angry. And so eventually he closed the door in my face, and I kicked it open. So I remember getting punched in the nose, and on right when I came through the door, I got punched in the nose, and that like really stunned me. And so
Oh,
I
yeah.
grabbed this kid, and we were wrestling. Eventually, I got him like to trip over a table, and then I just started hitting him, and um, like, my right hand in the fight. And then I don't know how long this went on for, but eventually another kid came up from behind us. I was kind of up on him, and so he hit me in the head with a baseball bat.
Wow.
And thing I really remember is her mom and her sister were helping me, carrying me out of the house, and the ambulance was already there. And so, um,
That's crazy.
needed that money for, help out of the situation, or if she just wanted to screw me for more drugs, or what. But yeah, so um, it, it's just amazing what people will do. I know how, you'll steal from your parents, even,
Yeah.
and like the people that raised you, and you should have the most respect for, you'll steal from them, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But so I remember, in the hospital. This is really my last memory before I woke up out of my coma. But anyway, um, I remember they said my sister was calling and the hospital, and I I want to talk to her, and so I couldn't even talk. I couldn't say no or yeah. It was just shaking my head in pain, and so um, but I guess that was her sister that was calling. So I don't know. It just all this stuff happened like at the same time. It felt like, and so it's just really confusing um, for me to think back on it. I
Yeah.
think I think sometimes feel like I remember stuff and then I don't know if it's real or that kind of feeling.
Yeah. So from what I understand though, like you had this situation where like you basically had overcome your drug addiction, you'd gotten your life together, you were feeling pretty good. You were still kind of hanging out with some people that maybe had some struggles and needed to get their lives together. But in the course of trying to help this girl from what you think is a desperate situation, you get into an altercation where you end up getting hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat. And and if I remember correctly, in listening to your story, you were in a coma for like 2 weeks. Like you woke up and you went into the situation before Christmas. And when you woke up, people were talking about what
Yeah.
they had done for Christmas break. Like you were in the hospital for two weeks or so
Yep.
before
Yep.
with zero memory.
Yeah. 57 days. Yeah. I was in the hospital for 57 days. And that includes like rehabilitation and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So,
And they
but
told you in the
I, re-
hospital that you weren't going to talk again, right?
yeah. And I still obviously struggle with some words and like my speech is a little bit off, but it's far exceeded what they had said I was going to get
Yeah.
back. And like, they don't know because every brain injury is different, And
Yeah.
so it just depends on a lot of things. But I remember they kind of told me that, not in um, the way they told my parents that. They told them like flat out I wasn't gonna talk again. But my speech therapist brought in like it was kind of like an iPad, and it had like buttons that had food or water, and you could press that button and it would say I want water, and so they were kind of getting me used to that and teaching me how to use that and stuff like
Yeah.
um, and then I remember my sister brought in her iPad, and it had a game on it, and the game would um, put a word on the screen and then say it, and then have you say it back to the program,
Okay.
and it would record you, and so hear what you sounded like, and I would practice that like every night after my family would leave. I would be practicing on that like constantly, and like the next time I saw my speech therapist, so this was on a Friday, and then I saw her again on a Monday, and so she said I had made like 2 weeks progress in that weekend.
Wow.
And so just on my talking, and then like I think I'll always had a hardworking attitude, and like certain things factor into that, like joining the military,
Mhm.
and having to go what I went through with my overdose and stuff. So, but I always had that mindset, but I think that this brain injury has really brought me to another level of knowing that hard work and discipline and dedication is super important, and you don't get anywhere without that. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am now if I would have did like the bare minimum, you know?
Yeah. Do you do any sort of therapy, or like, I know you do physical therapy and I know you do speech therapy, and I know that there's things to help with the physical side of the traumatic brain injury. I'm curious if you see a therapist to go through like the emotional and the mental side of it, because like just listening to your story, there's so many different ways that you could have chosen to think about this, physical thing that happened to you. And I'm wondering
Hmm.
where you think that the willpower to hear someone say you're not going to walk again, you're not going to talk again, you're not going to get, you know, full function of your systems back, and for you to go, yeah, F that, I'm going to do what I got to do. That's typical. That's not a typical response. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like
Yeah.
what that piece of it
Um,
looks like for you.
I think more of it that comes with how I was raised. Um, I was raised, like I would go with my grandparents during the day. I wasn't in school,
Hmm.
and they would tend me. And my grandpa was amazing. Like he would like he had all well you could think of, and he knew how to do or fix anything. And so he had also like a plastic molding company, and he would make like um, forks and spoons and
Okay.
anything like that. And he also had a um, like horse medicine company. And so he like I think um the reason why I like feel like he helped me out in so many ways, was
Hmm.
because I think when you're younger, you look up to people around you more than you would like a teenager would, or any
Sure.
anything like that. And so I was around him at that time of my life, and
Yeah.
so I would like obsess on anything he did.
Yeah. And he just kind of put in that work ethic and that, like,
Oh yeah.
all that stuff. So were your parents involved? Were your parents around, or was that a positive experience for you?
Yeah. Um, Definitely had a good relationship with both of my parents, and like my dad worked a lot, but he would always like we would always go hunting and take trips as a family and stuff like that. And so like families, I think that's why like I really appreciate people.
Yeah.
I appreciate them almost to my downfall in a way. I trust, like I have a lot of trust for people, and
Yeah.
even with when they like aren't doing things like positive towards me,
Yeah.
I can kind of shoo it off, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like, the situation that resulted in your brain injury was you trying to help somebody who maybe
Yeah.
hadn't really shown up in a way that most people would say deserved your support,
Yes.
right? So
Mhm.
like, I mean, I guess that kind of lends me to wonder about, how we set healthy boundaries, right? And how we tell people like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
here for you, and it's a dangerous situation. Because it's crazy to me. Like I try to explain to my kids all the time. And I don't know, are you married? Do you have family?
I am divorced, and
Okay.
so I yeah, I don't have kids or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah. So I try to it's I always try to tell my kids like, the choices they make, a lot of times we make those choices. Maybe they got good intentions, maybe they have, we're trying to help people, whatever. And not to tell people like, hey, you shouldn't help others, because I'm that's not what I'm saying. Like I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
Like I think people should like show up for people as much as possible. And like, man, you talk about how a simple decision changes the course of your life in
Hmm.
dramatically, impactful ways, right? Because in both good and challenging, right? Because like you have, since your brain injury, you've gotten to a place where like, you couldn't walk, and now you're running, you're getting to like really really push yourself physically. You were told you wouldn't be able to speak. You host a podcast, you know, and you interview people, and you're bringing
Hmm.
that message of what it means to have an iron will to people. So I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, and a little bit about what that looks like for you now. Like, because I kind of almost feel like, do you feel like there's a sense of responsibility? Like, once you choose to like, I'm gonna beat this, I'm gonna overcome this, do you use that like the people who are watching you and listening to you as motivation to like, I can't let these people down, not alone myself, but like how does that
Yes.
show up for you?
Um, so we we were on like episode 25 around there, and decided to put on a Iron Will 5K, um, to support brain injury, or um, Brainstorm for Brain Injury. They're a nonprofit and a local to Utah nonprofit, and so we decided to raise money for them and put on a virtual 5K. And so I didn't know like if anyone was would sign up or how many people or whatever, but we had like 100 people sign up, and we
Wow.
were able to raise $3,000 for this Brainstorm for Brain Injury. And I think, like you said, it's important to know who, like, I don't know if deserve is the right word, but who, um, I don't know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
all I can come up with is deserves, but
yeah,
who deserves the help, and that is like close to me. So like that's important to me, and so I felt like this was the perfect person, or the perfect nonprofit to help out with that.
yeah.
And actually, it's funny. Um, so I just had my um, fourth brain surgery, and hopefully this one's the final one. But I actually went to Dr. Judy Gooch, who runs Brainstorm for Brain Injury. So I'm already getting like the benefits of helping that person, And so because I was able to um, have her look at me and suggest that I got the brain surgery, and it has helped out so much. Like I wasn't able to, like, I was getting headaches and um, falling down, like um, dizzy spells and stuff like that, and I can like walk 50 feet without falling down. And
Wow.
since that, so um, I got that surgery on June 8th if
Of
this
this year?
year.
Okay. And
Yeah, and
what are they doing in those surgery? Are they just releasing pressure? Are they trying to
so I had my bone flap removed and reinstalled, and then they it was like caving in, and it had been getting worse and worse, and it eventually it started like touching on my brain, and
Okay.
so they had to remove that bone flap and put in like a plastic one, and so that's the surgery I just got, and that was on, like I said, June 8th of
Yeah.
this year. And
But that piece of your
like I said,
skull, that part of your skull is a fabricated piece that's plastic.
yes, yep.
And so, like, I mean, that's got to create some PTSD and some trauma for you because, like, your brain is not fully protected in the way that someone else's is. Like, you have some real
Well,
exposure
it's
there.
way more protected now after the surgery than it was, because my, yeah, like you said, like my brain was like, um, my bone flap was caving in and actually touching my brain. And
And
so, like, and not to mention the symptoms was me falling down all the time. And so, like, you said, like, that makes me really aware of anything, any move I do, I have to be super aware.
yeah. So like so my wife had a stroke 3.5 years ago and she had a dissected
Yeah.
carotid artery. She had brain surgery. They didn't go into her skull. They went in through her femoral artery and they were able to use a catheter to remove blood clots from her brain. Um, and that's, I mean, not even comparable to what you've experienced and what you've gone through. She's super hyper aware. We got a bunch of small kids, right? So they're playing, they get up on the couch. If anything comes and happens behind her,
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah. I'm the
her
exact
out.
same way.
She doesn't want anything around her neck or her head.
Yeah.
Um, it's just like there's this whole PTSD around,
And
sometimes
not to
it's not a big
mention,
deal, but yeah,
yeah, the fact that I got hit in the back of the head. Like,
yeah,
if anything happens behind me, I'm on it, man.
yeah. So like
And
you were
I
saying you
can,
were just in Colorado, like, and you went to a baseball game. Like, does
yeah.
that environment just freak you out? Like lights and
Not it,
people and stuff?
no. Well, like I went to a basketball game and it was completely worse. But being in a stadium, I
Mhm.
guess, being outside is different.
Okay.
Just I feel safer there,
Yeah.
um, but like when I went to the basketball game or even the baseball game, like I um, have trouble with my right side. So
Okay.
I have foot drop on my right side, and like my arm will raise up. And so it's just something you have to deal with, though.
Yeah. The thing that this makes me think of is like there's that saying, right? Like you never know what someone else is dealing with or what people have been through.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Like because and it's weird to say, like I don't know a better way to say this. I'll just say it, but like you look totally normal, right? Like you look fine. If
Yeah.
I walked into a restaurant and you were just sitting there, if I saw you at a baseball game, I wouldn't know that you had a
Yeah.
traumatic brain injury and that you were like having to really focus on maintaining composure at times, right? Or like at a basketball game. And it just makes me think about like how mindful everyone else can be that like
Yeah.
you really don't know what people are dealing with. And like, because I imagine there's times that you're just kind of like, hey, what was that? Or like, you might have a reaction that is really like not controllable. It's just It's a reaction because
Yeah.
you're trying to protect yourself, and people might look at you funny, or they might wonder like, why is this guy freaking out? And it just really shows like we don't know what people are dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah. Well, having that type of injury or traumatic situation really brings that to light. It like before I started my podcast, the kind of the reason why I wanted to start the podcast is because people would just come up and talk to me and tell me like about their stroke or about their missing a leg or about their dog dying, and like I just wanted to be able to have those people share their stories with more, because like you asked if I go to like therapy for
Mhm.
PTSD or anything like that. I don't, but I kind of use the podcast in that way
Yeah,
for therapy for me, just talking to people like it's already therapy for speech
yeah,
therapy, but just relating to people on even if they like um the first podcast I was ever on, I was on Dakota Meyer's podcast, and he's a Medal of Honor recipient, and
yeah,
he's obviously gone through hell in his own life, and um and in a completely different situation than I have been through, but that kind of is what made me realize that like everyone's situation is different, but like to the core or whatever, they're kind of the same.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're more similar than anyone realizes.
yeah. I think it's really crazy how our experiences can be uniquely ours, and at the same time the emotions we feel and like sort of the root cause of how we react or respond to those experiences are often so much the same, right? Like we all feel
Yeah,
shame, we all feel alone. I love that you're doing the podcast as part of a catharsis for you to kind of go, hey, if I can be heard and at the same time help other people be heard,
yeah,
then I get to, there's this phrase, with age, your mess becomes your message, right? And like that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking this experience of yours that's maybe a mess, maybe it's not. It's just, it makes the phrase work, right? But
yeah,
like you get to express to others what you've experienced. And what I really dig about it, and why I was drawn to you. I mean, we travel in some of the same circles, we have some of the same friends,
yeah,
and I think when you talk a lot about accountability and you talk about what it's like to face your demons, you end up kind of knowing the same people, right? But what I love about it is that your attitude and your desire for using your story as a way to inspire others, right? Because I've done interviews. I just interviewed a guy who's got stage 4 colorectal cancer, and he's launched a nonprofit, and he's using his experience to help others and taking what he's learning. He may
yeah,
be one step ahead of them, but it's like we have this choice when things happen to us to either just kind of curl up and die, which I know people who have made that choice,
yeah,
or to say, hey, this isn't going to beat me, this isn't going to be the best of me, and it doesn't define me, right? Like you've had a traumatic brain injury, but that's not who you are or what you are. And using that to inspire others, I think, is a really powerful um way to, I think, maybe you tell me, but I think it's a way for you to kind of own your situation, right? Like you feel like you're in control of it versus it controlling you, I would imagine.
yeah. Um, I actually started an LLC under Iron Will and a nonprofit, and I use that nonprofit side to like put on the Iron Will 5K or whatever. But
Yeah. Is
and I
that something you're gonna do
started that.
again?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
I didn't do it this year because of my surgery, but next year we will definitely have one. But um, so I met, like, you and I both know John Chase.
Yeah.
And so I met John Chase at the gym, and um, he's like the biggest motivating person in my life, like right now, because um, he's always like pushing me to do more and stuff like that. But anyway, I was really drawn to him as a person, and I really respect him. So I started the podcast with him, but I also this LLC. He's a partner with me, and um, I'm buying a CNC machine, um, and I'm gonna make like metal pieces of art or whatever. But that wasn't my original idea to do with the Iron Will. It was just to have like an app that like a therapy app kind of thing that people could go to get ideas for physical therapy and like even speech therapy or whatever. But that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money. And so I'm thinking outside the box, and buying this CNC machine. And so I can start making money with that, and then putting it back into this Iron
Nice.
Will. So yeah.
Nice. That's cool, man. That's cool. So that's what's next for you then is putting out some artwork, creating something else,
Yep.
generating a revenue stream with that.
Yep.
And yeah, we know John. John's over at Chase Movement there,
Yep.
and he's up in Utah. So if you're in that area,
Yeah. Orem, Utah. Yep.
yeah. So that's awesome. So he's gotten you on that path of physical fitness, right? So
Hmm.
my understanding is you guys are training together, and you have a Facebook group. Your Facebook group is meant for people who've had TBIs, or
No,
what's
just
the story behind
um, so I could have went that way, but John has his own struggles in life, and it kind of along the same lines of me, what in my past with the drugs and stuff like that. So our idea is it's for anyone that's been through a traumatic situation in their life, and from that, and use it to themselves and to stronger, more positive people.
Nice. Nice. And so you'll be able to run everything through the podcast, and really just build a community for supporting
Yes.
people who've overcome things in their life, whether it's addiction, whether it's, physical trauma, um, all of that. So I love the way that you've taken ownership of your story and your situation and decided that you could use it to help people in their own journeys. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap it up and put this one to bed?
Um, I just want to share the definition of Iron Will, if I can.
Yeah.
It's a burning determination that cannot be stopped or hindered by anything, willing to do anything to get a desired outcome, extremely resilient.
I love it. I love it. And then you have a saying, don't you? What is it? What if I could? What if I can? You were told
what
a
do I,
lot. You couldn't do stuff, right?
yeah, yep. And always would say, what if I can?
Yeah. So where's that shirt? Where do I buy that shirt? Because
It's
I
coming.
I love that phrase, and I think it's an awesome. I used to in my coaching business, we would talk about a culture of yes, right? And it's like when people tell you like, well, what about this or what about that or can we do this? Like, just what if we thought yes first, right? It doesn't mean that we're gonna make it happen, but so many times people are like, oh, I want to do, like my son came to me and was like, hey, I want to do 75 hard. And I was like, no way, that's crazy.
Yeah,
And I like had to remind myself, like, what happened to the culture of yes? Like, yeah, let's do it.
yeah.
And then maybe you find out, hey, it's not going to work out or it's not for me, whatever. But
Well,
like
it
the
doesn't
mindset
it
behind it.
doesn't help to think like that way, like that you can't do it, because like that you're already defeated, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep. Yeah. I love it. I love it, man. I'm really grateful for your time today. I appreciate you taking some time to share your story and to talk to about, the determination and what Iron Will is. I definitely want to invite everybody to check out the Iron Will podcast, check out the Iron Will Facebook group, uh, and follow Shane on Instagram. And I'll put all that in the show description so you can get those links
Okay.
and find all that stuff. And man, I'm looking forward to watching what you guys create, what you guys do. And I'm just really grateful to have gotten to meet you and hear your story. And you're an inspiration, brother. I appreciate it.
Same here, man.